Hi everyone, good morning. Yesterday, I gave you a link for SQLiteOnline.com where you can practice a few SQL queries to get comfortable with today's topic. I hope most of you have practiced SQL queries uh, ranging from starting from create command or create query till update and delete. With the list of commands that I gave you, you must have practiced by now. So, hoping on the same, I'm proceeding forward with the SQLite application. So let's create a new project. As usually, let's select empty activity with next. Let's call the application as SQLite. SQLite. Make sure it is created in batch 15 folder. Batch 15, okay. Then choose this SQLite. Leave the other defaults to the defaults. Like Java, you can put it to Java. Minimum required SDK, you can set it to API 23. So that our application will be running on approximately 97.2% of devices that are active on Google Play Store. Hit finish to create this project. While the project is being created, it's better if we can pick up the UI design. So the UI design is already done into Shade Preferences. So if you open the app SRC main, or I can also rely on this. Yes, I can rely on this. I can simply copy this content and back to our project. It is not yet created. It takes some time, it seems. Okay, the project is created. Let us build the UI. So in the layout, if you open activity underscore main.xml, you get to see the code, right? You can simply replace it with the copied code from the other application. Next, we have to copy a few lines from main activity. So the main activity code is residing here, and I can copy these three: edit text, person name, person age, text view, person result. Can get that copied to this place and download. I recommend importing edit text and text view classes. Once it is done, the next step is to connect these three. Okay, this is all a very common thing that we have been doing from the past three applications, if you remember. Next, you can also copy the save data and load data methods. Save data method is here and load data method is here. Copy it, come back to Android Studio, paste it. Now, shade preferences related code can be taken off. Okay, when there is nothing entered on the text boxes, you know how to handle that situation or handle that case, right? In the load data method also, there is some data we shall remove. All right. Once it is done, so how do we handle if no data is present? If person name dot get text dot to string, if it is equals to empty, or person age dot get text. So we shall write it in the next line so that you can see easily. Dot get text dot to string dot equals ignore case of another empty string. In that case, we'll throw an error on both person name dot set error. You can write any error report as you wish to. I wish to write this cannot be null. In the same way, I'll also repeat the same for person age. So it is person age here. All right. So we'll do this. We'll do this when there is nothing entered on the text fields. If only something is entered on the text fields, we will perform the rest of the logic. Okay, we shall perform the rest of the logic. Hope this point is clear yesterday itself. I'm just repeating on this so that you'll get a clear idea about it. Once the data is fetched to name and age, the very next step is to perform insert operation. Okay, we have to perform. The to do here is perform insert operation. Okay. Once the insert operation is performed, you just have to reset the text view. Sorry, reset the data on the person name and person age. So person name dot get text dot clear person age dot get text dot clear. Okay. Also, I would like to set the focus to request focus person name. Right. So this is also a natural thing that we are doing from the last application. Right. So here we'll write the logic under the to do statement. We'll write the logic to insert the data into the database. So we'll come to load data once insertion is properly done. Okay. One thing we forgot to change, and that is to the compile SDK can be set to 33. Hit on sync now so that the project will be synchronized. SQLite is a default database that we have. We need not to have another import statement added here. Whatever the import statements or whatever the implementation statements we have, these are sufficient. We need not to include another statement under the dependencies to use SQLite database. I hope so far it is good, right? Can I get your confirmation on the chat? Thank you, Sarfraz Khan, for raising your hand. Thank you, Akansha, for responding. Cool. So the next step is to create a database helper. So what are the other components that we will be working with? The first component is SQLite helper. So we'll create a class. We'll create a Java class. We'll call it database helper. Okay, database helper. And this class can be extended into SQLite open helper. This can extend to SQLite open helper. So what is this SQLite open helper? So in order to let you understand what is this SQLite open helper, I'll go to Google and search for SQLite open helper. If you search for SQLite open helper in Android, you get the developer documentation. You can jump into the developer documentation and you get to see that a helper class to manage database creation and versions of the database. You create a subclass implementing on create and on upgrade. So with SQLite open helper, you're supposed to override on create and on upgrade. So here classroom, where our SQLite material is being prepared from yesterday. Okay, this is not saved, it seems. That's it, I'm done. You can post it. All right. So yesterday we talked about SQLite thing, right? We'll edit the same material. I'll simply copy this link. This link I'm going to add it in the classwork. Add it. And we'll have a small detailing, like it is an helper class. SQLite Open Helper is a helper class to manage your database creation and also the versions related to it. So this is about SQLite Open Helper. So with SQLite Open Helper, you get two things, right? One is on create and the other is on upgrade. SQLite Open Helper is a helper class to create and manage the database. Without SQLite Open Helper also, it is absolutely possible to create tables in the database, also insert values into the database. Okay. Without using SQLite Open Helper, you can still be able to do it. But with SQLite Open Helper, it becomes easy for you to manage it. Everything related to database operations are present into one single class, which gives you much comfort and ease to proceed with using SQLite Open Helper or using SQLite database. So as we get an error on SQLite Open Helper, you get to implement methods. And what are the methods that you are supposed to implement? On create and on upgrade. We still got an error. Okay. Before we resolve this error, let us talk about on create. This is used to create the tables in the table. Simply, on create is used only to create the tables in the database, whereas on upgrade is used to upgrade the database when there is a version change. Okay. Now let us resolve this error. What is SQLite Open Helper is throwing at us? It requires a constructor basically. So if you jump into this and do Alt Enter, you get a suggestion: create constructor matching super. If you hit it, there are three constructors that you can override or that you can pick up. So the first one has 1, 2, 3, 4 arguments. The second one has 5. Third one has again 4. I recommend you to picking up the first one, right? So whenever an object for database creator, a database helper is created, you're supposed to pass in the context the name of the database. Here, the name represents the database name. It does not represent the table name. Please note this point. Okay. There is a factory and the version code is also should be passed. So I don't want all these things. Instead, I just want the context object. The remaining things I'm going to remove it. If I remove it, the super keyword which is present, which is actually calling SQLite Open Helpers constructor, is throwing us errors, right? We shall fix it by having some static values here. Because database name, I don't want to change it for every instance of database helper that is being created. I don't want to change the version also every time there is a new instance created for database helper. That is the reason I will have some static constants where I'll be having the name of the database, also the version fixed. So public static final string database name. I'll make sure they are capitalized. Now you may ask me, is it necessary that we capitalize these constants? The reason why we capitalize the constants is because to identify them as constants in the future. So the database name is equal to, I will say, narragetech.db. So this is the file name I'm going to do, or narragetech. You can simply leave it narragetech. Okay. If you ask me if constants naming should follow capitalization, I would say yes, because other developers are also doing the same. If not, if you ask me, there is not a possibility to do without capitalizing this constants? Yes, there is absolutely a possibility. Without actually capitalizing these constants, you can still work with normal characters as constants. Again, I need public static final integer version is equal to 1. Now, simply for factory, as I do not want any factory methods and keeping it null, mostly it will be null only. But for the database, but for the name, I'm passing database name, and for version, I'm passing version. That satisfies the superclass constructor call in the constructor of our database helper. Okay. Any doubts so far? Thank you, Akansha, for responding. I hope it is the same with other people as well. All right. Moving on. So how do we create a database table and how do we upgrade a database table if necessary? Okay. To create the database table, I'm going to create a few other constants. Public static final string table name. Table name, I would like to name the table as person. In the similar way, public static final string column 0 or column 1, whatever it is. Column 1, what is the column 1 name? It is person underscore ID. I'm just defining the table and their columns here as constants. Column 2, can name it as person name. Okay, there is no equal to symbol. That is the reason you are getting it. Assignment operator has to be present. To copy the same, I'll say column 3, and instead of person name, I should say person age. Once all of these are created, okay, let us just write the command. Okay, how do you write the command? In the onCreate method, you can define a string called query or create query. We'll call it create query. And that is equal to, how do we write the query? In the double quotations, I'm just copying the query that is already present. Okay, where is it? SQL commands, yeah. So there is a query for us, create table. Okay, this is for students data. So we're just using the same schema. So I can copy this, come back and paste it here along with the semicolon. Okay, along with the semicolon, right? But the table name is not students data. Instead, it is a constant that is already created, and that is table name. Student ID is not our column name. Instead, that is another column which is in column 1. After the auto increment, you can hit a enter and take this entire command to the next line. Now for student name, I would like to add the column 2. And for student age, it is the same. 2 double quotations, 2 plus symbols, and inside that I'll write column 3. Now the table is, the query is ready. We just have to execute this query on SQLite database object. The SQLite database object is present in the parameter of onCreate method. If you observed it carefully. Correct? Now, how do we run this create query? Very simple. You just have to write db.execute SQL. So for this execute SQL, you can pass this create query. And then you can say that your table is created. Okay. So do I need to explain how I wrote the query once again? Because most people will get confused here, and I'm sure about it. If you understood it in the first go, absolutely fine. Congratulations. We can proceed forward. All right. So great. If you understand it in the very first go. Anybody else who needs an explanation on the create query that I have written? Okay. Thanks. I take it as a no. So in the on upgrade method, what I'm going to do is I'm just dropping off, I will drop off the table and I'll recreate it easily. Okay. If there is a new version available, only then this on upgrade method would be called by the system. You won't call on upgrade method. As soon as there is a change in the version, the system will call on upgrade method. So in the on upgrade method, what I'm typically going to do is I'm going to write execute SQL and write draw table space, give the table name. Table name. And once the table is dropped, you just want to recreate it by calling on create explicitly by passing the DB value to it. So DB is nothing but the SQLite database object. Next. So the other operations that are related to the database can happen here, can actually happen here. If you understood till here, we shall see how to add the other helper functions so that your database related code will be ready to some extent though. Okay, moving on. So to insert data, I'm going to create a helper method called insert data to insert data to the database table. I'll go ahead, write public. I don't want to return anything from insert data method. And the data, the method would be insert data, right? And for this insert data, I'd like to take content values object as the input. Now, the first doubt that you get is, what is this content values? Okay, what is this content values? Content values is simple data structure that helps you to map the values with the column names of the table so that these values can be inserted easily into the database. Hope you got my point. I'll repeat. Content values are is a simple data structure that helps you map the values of the table in values of the table to the column names of the table. Okay. If you want to get more gist about content values, you can simply go to Google and type it here, content values and write. Actually pasting this link as well into the classroom notes. So you can see this class is used to store a set of values that content resolver can process. Okay. So typically, when you want to insert data, column name must be mapped with the exact value that you want to insert. So that mapping will be taken care of by content values. You'll understand it better once we jump into main activity. So here there is a simple command that you can, or simple query that you can work with. You need not to go ahead, copy this insert query and paste it here. There's no need of doing it. Simply you can call DB, or simply can create an SQLite database object, DB, and that's equal to this dot get writable database. Once we get the writable database, it calls db.insert of, give the table name in the first argument and values in the second one. Oh, sorry. Null should go here for factory. We don't use factory. And finally, the values object that is coming in as one of the, as coming in as the parameter should be passed as the third argument for insert method. This is a pre-built method that you get out of database, SQLite database class. You need not to write a lengthy query. With this, you're done actually. With this, you're done with the insert data. Let us see how we implement this on main activity. How do we call this from main activity? In order to call the database helper class related methods, we create an object for database helper. Database helper. As usually, we shall initialize it in the onCreate method. So helper is equal to new database helper. And for this database helper, as you know, that you are supposed to pass in the context object. If we did not use these static constants, you would also be passing another two extra parameters when you create an object for database helper. Please underline this point. Okay. Now with the help of helper, all we need to do is first create the content values object. Values is equal to new content values. This is how we create an object, correct? And for the values, you want to put the values like what is the first column name? Person name, isn't it? So what do we do? Database helper dot column 2, which is person name. Okay. Now for the person name, I'm matching this n because in the n variable, you get the data from person name. Now you may wonder, we did not have this column 2 here. How are we able to access column 2 without the needing an object for database helper? We are directly calling database helper. If you observe carefully, this is a static field, right? It is also publicly accessible. That is the reason this column 2 is being accessed from main activity.java. Once it's done, in the similar way, we will also put database helper. Oh, sorry. It is database helper dot column 3, that is for person age. We'll put age A here. Once this is done, you simply need to use the helper object, call insert data method, and pass this values information. This will definitely insert data into the database if the table is created. So you can simply write a toast message saying that the data is inserted successfully. You're done. So shall we run this application and see if this runs as per our requirement? We shall see it. Okay, my device just got switched off, turning it on. Give me a minute. Right, the device is connected, so let's run the application directly on top of it. I'll use Visor to show my device to you. All right. Hope you're able to see my device on the screen. The app is up and running. If I give my name as input and my age, 18 years from the past 12 years. So if I hit on save, I get to see data is inserted successfully. And I also see that my form is reset. Okay. So where are these details stored? Is it internal to the application or is it external to the application? All database related files will be stored as internal files of the application. What does it mean? It means that these files will get deleted when you uninstall the application. Correct. So where are these details stored? To see that, you can jump into Device File Explorer, and for internal storage, what is the path that we did follow? And for shape preferences, what is the path that we did follow? We jumped into data and then again opened data, found out, do we need to register the content provider in manifest file? Shweta, as of now, we are not talking about content provider. We're only talking about databases. The next topic itself is content provider. We'll talk in detail about that. Thanks for understanding. So we'll scroll down to see where our SQLite package is there. Once you are into the SQLite package, you get to see databases here. If you open databases, you get to see Naresh Tech. Right? This is our database name. So in order to open this, this is not an openable file from the Android Studio. So what do? We simply right click here. We'll save it. We'll save it somewhere that is accessible. Maybe on desktop, you can save it. Public. Okay. Inside my name, I would have okay, what I will do is I will simply jump into documents where are my files link. No, I'll do it. I'll do this again. Right click, save as. Yeah. Okay. In the documents only I'll save it. What is there? In the documents. Yeah. Here I'll save it. Okay. Hit okay. And then your file is saved. So let's see if it is saved or not. In the documents, yes, it got saved. So this is the database file name. You cannot open it, right? Right away, you cannot open it. To open this kind of a file, for which is a SQLite file, which is a database file, you need an external software, and that is SQLite browser. Okay, you will get it here. DB browser is the software name that you can install. I'm just putting it in the class code so that you can see it later if you want to. This helps you to browse the database that is already present in the file. So how do we open it? Simply right click, open with, select DB browser for SQLite, hit just once. And that opens a theme like this. So if you double tap on person or right click on person and hit on browse table, you get to see the details. Pawan and Iten are stored. Okay. So in a similar way, you can add as many values as you wish to, and that is represented as a table like this. Any questions with this? Any questions with this? Any questions? Okay, thank you, Akansha, for responding. Okay, I take it as a no for all. Now let us see how to fetch data and show it to the user. If you want to fetch data, it is also a database operation. It is called read operation. To read data from the table, what do? We create a method like this, public. This method should return a cursor object, cursor, get all data. The method name is get all data, and this method will not take any arguments. In case if you have, let us say, in case if you have the where clause or order by, group by, these details, only then you're supposed to have a few parameters for get all data method. We are supposed to return a cursor object. So as of now, I'm writing it null here. Now, what is a cursor object? The first question that comes in your mind is, what is a cursor object? What is this cursor object? What is the history of this cursor object? Correct? So what do we do in general? We'll go to Google and search for cursor Android. As you see, there is a documentation for cursor Android. So this interface provides a random read-write access to the result set returned by a database query. Cursor implementations are not required to be synchronized. So code using a cursor for multiple threads should perform its own synchronization when using the cursor. Okay. Cursor is something that is helpful to get your data, and you can use this cursor to read through the data. I'll show you how. Okay. So let's create a cursor object. Okay, let's first create an SQLite database object, DB. And what do we want now? We want a readable database. Once the database is readable, you create the cursor object C. Cursor C equals to db dot raw query. Now pass your select statement here. Select star from space, give the table name. Now include null on the selection arguments and null on the cancellation signal. Okay. You can also create another null value here. Okay, only 3 things are needed. I'll try more. So this cursor object can be returned. So this raw query method returns a cursor object, and the same can be returned out of this method. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So easy. Correct? In the similar way, in the same easier way, you can also read data when load data button is pressed. So you create a cursor object C, and that is equal to helper dot get all data. You're done. You got the entire table data into a raw cursor object. And from this object, how do we read data is another step. So there are a few helper methods available for us. I'll show you what they are and how they are useful. Okay, let me connect my pen tablet to you, pen tablet to this paintbrush. Let us say we have a table, right? So this is our table. Okay. This is ID. This is name. And this is age. Okay. What is row 1? Row 1 is filled with my details. 1. Pavan is my name. Age is 18 from the past 12 years. Second entry, let us say Akanksha. Let us say age is 20. Let us say third entry is Sweta. Let us say age is 22. Okay, I'm just taking some random ages. These are not correct ages. So this is our table. This is the value. These are the contents of the table, and this is the table structure. So with cursor, let us take me. Okay, with this is written through a cursor object. All this is written through a raw cursor object. And your cursor will be pointing at a random value. So what is the step 1? So step 1 is to bring your cursor to the first value or the first row. How do we bring it? With the help of cursor object C dot move to first. There is a method called move to first. With this, your cursor will now be pointing at row 0 or row 1, whatever is comfortable with you. Now with this entire row, how do we read data? So the second step is read data from that row. So to read data, you need to call, if you want to get a string out of the cursor object, integer ID is equal to, you should write c dot get integer of, you provide the index of these columns. So the indexes goes this way. Index 0, index 1, and index 2. So c dot get int of 0 would get you this value. Okay. In the similar way, you want to read a string. So string name is equal to c dot. What do we call? Do we call get int? We should call get string, because the data type we are knowing it already. And what is the column index? Column index is 1. We pass 1 to it. Again, we want an integer age, and that is equal to c dot. What do we call? We should call get integer of 2. So 2 is this one. So you will get age, which is this value. Once this is read, you should move the cursor to the next position. Move the cursor to next position. Move the cursor to the next position. So simply you'll write c dot move to next. And then your cursor would come to this place, the second row. Right. So this one, if you loop through, this whole structure, if you loop through, okay, if this is looped through, loop through this, and you read the database table. entire table. That is in the cursor object. Now, theoretically, I think it is clear. Now, let us see how we can implement this practically. So, let's see how we can implement this practically. Okay. So, going back to the design, in the load data, you have got a cursor object. So, what I want to do is I want to bring, so, okay, bring the cursor to point the first row of the table. Row of the table. We should write simply move to first. Next, you will write a do while loop. So while c dot move to next. So in this while, you should end this with a colon. Now what do? We read data. So integer id is equal to c dot get integer of 0. Similarly, string name is equal to c dot get string of column index is 1. Integer age is equal to c dot get integer of column index is 2. Now you have this data, you can load it on top of the person result. So person result dot set text of, not set text, we can use append. Append of, first thing first, id you should give, and then give a space, two spaces though, then name you give, and then you take another two spaces, then you give age. And after that, you can give a backslash n so that it appears in the very next line. That's it. With this, you read the data already. Let us run this application once again and see our output. If you hit on load, you get 1 power 18 because this is only one value we have. Let's say I will enter Akanksha. Sorry for my wrong spelling. Let enter the age as 20. Let us suppose if I hit on save, it gets saved. The similar way, let us also enter another detail, another entry into the database table. You hit on save and the data is saved successfully. Now, if you hit on load, all of these are coming into place. The reason why Pawan comes twice is because as you load data, you are not resetting the value of the text view. So person result dot set text of empty. Now we run the application and see the output once again. Load data, right? Let's enter another one. Sarafraj Khan, age 24, let us suppose. I'm just taking random ages because I don't know your actual age. Hit on save, load, and you get the data here. That's it. That's all of it. Easy, right? You can also work with update and delete commands. For update, we have simply, as we have this insert method here, we also have something like update, for which you need to pass the table, values, and where classes. Okay. If you are comfortable in writing up values, you can also write up values for using the integer. Okay, based on that, your update method will work. Similar is the case with delete. Okay, please try these things on your own. Take it as an assignment. Just adding that same information on class for Casper. Creating a table, inserting values into the table, into the table, reading values or reading data from the table is explained. Please take, delete, and update operations on database as your assignment. And this we want to say, yes, we're done with it. Let me also push this code to GitHub. Sorry, Bitbucket. I'm just confused with both of them. Batch 15. Git and dot git atomic hyphen databases. Git push origin main master. That's all of it. Thank you so much, guys, for your cooperation and understanding. Please try to complete update and delete operations also in the similar way as I've shown you. Okay, try to do that. Tomorrow we will be discussing content providers in Android, and then we will be moving on to MVVM architecture from next week. Okay, tomorrow we will close content provider. Right. Thank you so much, guys. Nice of you. Have a good day.